Since Manchester City returned from the Club World Cup in December, they've won every single game they've played. So the question here today is, how did Chelsea stop them? Join me today as we take a look. If you are new to the channel, please make sure that you subscribe, you like the video, and you turn on those notifications. It really does help me out and it means a lot. But now, let's get into it. To begin with, we're going to be having a look at the starting lineups, and because they are the side at home, we're going to start with Manchester City. I've got them set up in their 4-2-3-1 formation. Now, naturally, this will change once they enter possession. They start to put people forwards and the positions start to rotate. But we've got Walker out on this right-hand side. John Stones coming into this Man City side. We know how well he can progress and move into midfield. Ruben Diaz as the other centre-back partnering him, and we've got Nathan Ake out on this left-hand side after Gvardiol got injured. We've got Rodri as ever with this Manchester City side. I think they have a ridiculous record without him, something like a 30% win rate without him in the side, which is crazy. Bernardo Silva partnering him, he's going to be moving further forward once John Stones enters the midfield. Then we've got Kevin De Bruyne out in this side. He's finally back to his best, he's back fit and he's able to progress forwards. Jeremy Doku is going to be taking out this left wing spot after Jack Grealish got injured in their most recent game. Phil Foden out on this right hand side. He's on fine form right now, isn't he? And you can't have a Man City side without Erling Haaland. And this is a Man City side. And now it's time to turn our attention to the away side. I've got Chelsea set up in their 4-2-3-1 formation. We've got Malagusto out on this right hand side after a good performance against Crystal Palace. Disasi and Colwill are the centre backs. Colwill coming in for an injured Thiago Silva. Ben Chilwell is out on this left hand side and he's going to be supporting Nicholas Jackson, who's really started to find some form out on this left wing position. Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo are your double pivots to try and keep Chelsea ticking along. Up ahead of them, we've got Conor Gallagher in this central attacking midfield role. I like Gallagher in this position. I think it gives Chelsea a lot of energy, and it definitely gives them a bit more defensive solidity than having Cole Palmer in this central role. Cole Palmer needs to play with his creation, so I've got him out on this right-hand side in favour of Noni Madueke. And just in front of them, we've got the main man himself, Christopher Nkunku. The quality, the presence, and the ability. Maybe now is a time to be able to start him, but it all remains to be seen as to what Pochettino will be doing. But this is your Chelsea side. The problem with Man City is, well, they're darn good, to be quite frank about it. And Chelsea are, I wouldn't say not, but they're definitely struggling at the moment, and the league position really does reflect that. But if they're going to get anything out of this game, a good set of tactics is always going to be something they need to look towards. Confidence isn't as high as it probably should be with this Chelsea squad, and then you've got some of the question marks about whether there's fitness, about whether the players should be playing there, and about how they work together. So how on earth are Chelsea going to stop Man City? Well, to be quite frank with you, they're not, but they can restrict them, and they can put them into areas that really do benefit Chelsea more than not. What I mean by that is it's all about positioning, and it's all about making sure that you can either block certain areas or push Man City into certain zones that you want them to be to give you a better chance of defending. But let's strip that back for a moment and talk about Man City. When Man City are in possession, they move out of this 4-2-3-1 formation and it becomes something of a 3-2-2-3, if that makes sense. And I'll just show it here. So we've got Nathan Ake moving into midfield in possession. Ruben Diaz comes over and we've got John Stones going into midfield to partner Rodri. It's a bit of musical chairs here. Rodri moves over as Bernardo Silva pushes up and becomes one of the attacking midfielders, and Kevin De Bruyne moves across. This gives Man City their box formation that allows them to really dictate possession, and it also gives them the option to rotate the ball round to the wingers whenever they need to. Man City actually have the most progressive carriers out of any side in the Premier League this season, and they have the highest amount of goal creating actions, which means that they not only create an abundance of chances, but they also are able to progress the ball forwards. This is through dribbling, it's through driving with the ball, but also through passing. A very, very dangerous mix. Kyle Walker moves forwards a little bit more and it becomes a back three of Ake, of Diaz, and of Walker. John Stones and Rodri become the two holding midfielders, and then you've got the attacking players. So Chelsea have quite a lot to deal with, but I've come up with this. This is something that looks very convoluted, but bear with me. So this is Man City's attacking formation. Here we have the two centre-backs, or the three centre-backs I should say. Here we have the two holding midfielders, the two attacking midfielders, the two wingers, and then you've got the main man himself. We're going to leave Haaland for a moment, because I think without any support, without any kind of service, you're really nullifying a lot of what Haaland can do. Don't get me wrong, he's one of the best finishers in the world, if not the best finisher in the world right now, but without service, he can't do anything. So it's all about stopping this box. And if you stop this box, yes, Man City are going to find different ways to go forwards. Yes, they're going to have different options. But if you stop this and if you stifle this, number one, you cut off the route to Erling Haaland. And number two, you stop Man City from really dictating possession and play. Now, this is facilitated by the fact that they have three centre-backs, but they've got the three centre-backs to try and help them in a more defensive position and recover the ball better. That's why they push so high up the pitch, because they've got fast, pacey players who are strong, who are going to be able to deal with the recovery of possession. Let's talk about this box. This box is comprised of Rodri, of John Stones, of Kevin De Bruyne, and of Bernardo Silva. And what I've got for Chelsea is a similar box. I've got Conor Gallagher and Christopher Nkunku going forwards. I've got Caicedo and I've got Enzo. Now what I want them to do in this particular scenario is play very man-marking. I want Caicedo onto Kevin De Bruyne at all times, and I mean literally shadowing him. That's the only reason and the only way you're going to be able to cut off the passing lanes. This puts extra emphasis on Rodri to try and create more progressive passes through into the wingers, and it also makes sure that John Stones is under pressure because of the presence of Christopher Nkunku. The likes of Cole Palmer and Jackson seem like they have free roles, but that's not actually true. They're going to need to be doubling up on the two wingers. And then you're going to be having them push out into these wide areas, and that's going to force Man City to make a decision. Do they either drive towards the byline or do they cut inside? The movement of Kevin De Bruyne is always going to be a difficulty, which is why I've got Caicedo on a man-marking job. Enzo Fernandez is not going to be as occupied with that, but he's got the aggressiveness of Disasi and Gusto to be able to try and help him out. This is where Palmer comes in to try and help with the defensive orientation. It doesn't seem like a very clever thing just to leave these Man City players to do what they want. You can't really set your side up and hope that Man City don't break you down, because more often than not they will. So you've got to change the way that you play. That's just a matter of fact. And what I want Chelsea to do, and what I think they should do to try and stop the likes of De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, you've got to restrict the space. You've got to create this box formation and restrict the space going into the players. This means compacting the side. And if you compact the side, for example, in the lines that I've currently drawn for you, the blue lines, you make it more difficult for Man City to play through you. If you do that, you force them into wide areas. And Man City are unbelievable at playing through tight positions, but you can only do so much. You're forcing them out into these wide areas. Now, in these wide areas, they're going to be a little bit more isolated. Ben Chilwell is going to need to win his duel, and so is Malo Gusto. But doubling up with Cole Palmer and with Nicholas Jackson, it starts to become a little bit more of a doable task. Then you're asking these two to spin. When you ask these two to spin, you're trying to hit the channels in behind Kyle Walker and Nathan Ake. You manage to do this and you've got a transition. I can see Raheem Sterling playing in this game because of his pace, because of his awareness, but he gets offside more often than not. And I don't really trust him to keep the offside line, nor do I trust him to really double back and try to stop Foden. So, which is why we've got Jackson and why we've got Palmer. But if you cut off the passing lanes, utilising Gallagher, utilising Nkunku, onto Rodri and Stones, they can't play as many through balls or as many progressive passes through into the attacking midfielders. Then you've got the aggressiveness of Caicedo, then you've got the aggressiveness of Enzo to try and block out the two attacking midfielders from getting the ball into Haaland. It all comes together to try and create an aggressive system that isolates space out wide, but also stops the passing lanes from going into the more attack-minded players. This then forces Kevin De Bruyne to drop a little bit deeper, which is something that Chelsea are going to need to really adapt to. Caicedo is going to need to go on a man-marking mission to go and follow him, but then you've got the aggressive nature of the back four. They are going to need to be comprised of squeezing the pitch as much as possible, because then it allows and stops Kevin De Bruyne from playing the ball round the side. He can play through touch into that offside area, but it's all about holding your line properly. It's something that a lot of teams are very good at. Aston Villa are very good at holding their line. Chelsea need to be good at this as well. If you limit the space and limit the amount of opportunity available to players in tight-knit scenarios utilising a man-marking system, I think Chelsea could really get quite a bit of joy here. And then you've got the option for them to counter-attack into these areas. I'd favour the Chelsea right-hand side, the Man City left-hand side behind Nathan Ake, because I think that Ruben Dias is better at covering on his right hand side rather than his left, and I also believe that Doku isn't necessarily going to be the most defensive minded of players when he's going back the other way, whereas I think Phil Foden is a bit questionable defensively, but I think he's got a little bit more about him. Kevin De Bruyne will also be an issue out on this right hand side. I've got Chelsea going down this right hand side, and I think it's going to create the more opportunities. Now, if they do manage to get to transition, which I think they will do, the problem they've got is Ruben Dias here, and he's holding this offside line. This is why Man City is so dangerous. They hold their line so high, and it just means that offside traps are just something that teams really need to worry about. And then this red line is indicating of where Ederson is going to be able to come towards. So I've highlighted these particular boxes here. And these are the spaces that Chelsea are going to need to hit if they're not going to be offside, but also make sure that they're able to stop Ederson from being able to hit these spaces. They do this, and they do it with enough timing, with enough rhythm, and with enough support, utilising Nicholas Jackson, utilising Christopher Nkunku. I think they could get something out of this game. Prolong the idea of Man City breaking a side down, and then you've got the option of frustrating the crowd, of frustrating the players, and Pep Guardiola needs to think about how he's going to set up his side to get the best out of his current assets. Later in the game, it's going to be a bit more difficult, and later in the game, it's going to be a bit more frustrating for Man City. They have to win this game. Something that Chelsea need to remember, they have to win. So they are going to push more bodies forward, which is going to leave more space for Chelsea to counter-attack. It's a long shot, it's a difficult game, but I think it's something that Chelsea could really work on. And I think that this 4-man box scenario to try and stop the passing lanes, to try and isolate, along with my man-marking system that I've nominated for this game, I think Chelsea could really do a number on Man City. And then utilising the pace in behind with the likes of either a Madueke, a Sterling, a Jackson. Palmer isn't the fastest, but even he could do something with a Christopher Nkunku. Utilising the space in behind, I think Chelsea could maybe get a sucker punch. And I do see them being able to do something. This last game was a 4-4 cracker. I haven't gone for that just yet, but I have gone for another draw. I think this game can end up being 2-2. But my question to you guys is, how do you believe this game will play out? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care.